Hello and welcome to Joyride with your hosts, the Metaphysical Moms, Tiffany and Carrie. Joyride takes you on a spin with your hosts, the Metaphysical Moms, Tiffany and Carrie. Joyride takes you on a spin with your hosts, the Metaphysical Moms, Tiffany
but
and
he's stuttering.
Hello and welcome to Joyride with your hosts, the Metaphysical Moms, Tiffany and Carrie. Joyride takes you on a spin through all things spiritual and soulful, including holistic healing, energy work, and personal development. Now, here are your hosts, Tiffany and Carrie.
Hello. Hi, guys. How are you? Welcome to another Joyride.
Tiffany, Carrie.
Tiffany,
you said you wanted to
Carrie.
say that, and so it is. Now we know who they are. Hi, everybody. How are you guys today? We're so happy you're here.
Yes. It's, what show number?
96.
Show number 96.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, I was laughing at last night. I was painting a purse, and so my hands were black. We went out
She
to
looks
eat.
like she's been digging in the dirt.
I know I do, and then I don't bathe. But we went out to eat, and the guy came by. He was like, "Ma'am, do you need something for your hands?" No,
It's
it doesn't.
dye. It's going to be on there a few days.
But I wake up and it's kind of gone. So I'm wondering if my body is absorbing it.
Oh,
which
lovely.
May not be that good.
She's fearless. She's like, I want to dye my rug blue. And she's like, got this rug out on the driveway. Or I want to dye my purse. I want
Didn't
to
work.
paint my house.
Not really sure.
She's very
I think I'm 0 for 3.
fearless painter.
I am. Well, yeah.
Her hair's pink, too, by the way, today. I'm seeing a little...
It's shampoo. I can shampoo it in. All right.
Well,
so,
welcome to another Joyride. We're so excited you're joining us here, whether you're here on Facebook Live. Drop a note in to say hi. Please like and share with other people who are on their spiritual journey who would enjoy being a part of our Joy Tribe. And if you're following us on Facebook or YouTube or our podcast, we really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much.
very, very much. And today we're doing another giveaway. So our guest today is incredible. And as they all are. And she's like extra special. And we have, we're giving away 5 tickets to her conference, an online conference.
We'll get
So
all into that.
You share, I can't talk.
If
by
you share the
sharing-
live feed, this live Facebook
There you
feed, it'll be your entry to win one of the tickets to the conference. But
Bum, ba, bum.
before we get to that, let's invite our guest. She is joining us here on Skype. Hello, Teresa.
Teresa.
Hello, hello. How are you guys doing today?
Oh my gosh, we're good. How are you?
I am amazing. I'm doing great.
Oh,
Tell us how you found Teresa.
oh my goodness. Okay, so yes, I feel like I
Okay,
know you.
Divine Frequencies, obviously.
Yes,
A
and
lot of people, you guys probably already know Teresa. So
I'm sure you do. So last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I think it was last year. Anyway, okay, so backing way up, I have had pieces to the puzzle. Life did not make sense. The way it's put forth, it just didn't make sense. And I kept calling BS on whether it was the preacher or it was school or it was politics, mainly politics. Things just did not seem, it just seemed fake. And I didn't know why. So after some time, actually it was last year I found David Wilcock and Corey Good and James I can't say-
Gilliland.
thank you. And our guest. And so everything she said and everything they said, it's like the pieces just went and they just fell into place. And so it helped me make sense of this world. And we have, oh my goodness, so there's so, like we can go so many different ways with you, whether we want to talk about aliens or disclosure or
magic.
or frequency. There are just, you do so much. And I have a girlfriend who has been on the show quite a bit, Miss Nora.
Nora Yolis Young.
And she adores you, and she's like, oh, you have to ask her all these questions. I have these questions, but it seems that you are part of the new guard. And so, I mean, I know personally, I do not watch the news at all because I don't believe most of it, and it's also so fear-based that I really don't like to be afraid of things, and but they're saying that you are the new guard, that there is this alternative news source that is coming up, or actually you're already up, and you're part of that. You're very much a part of that. You think so?
Well, it's so important. Like my passion my whole life has been journalism. And when I went to college, the first paper that I ever wrote when I was in college was about how we needed to critique the images and messages that we receive in the mainstream media. And it's always been a passion of mine. It's so important, you know, when you see the deeper meanings behind what you're receiving, whether it be through the news or any kind of media that you're taking in, it's paramount to bring out of your unconscious mind what should be conscious. And when you take control over your own personal sovereignty and you stand up and you say, I do have power. I have the power of my mind. I get to choose how I feel about this information you're talking about, you know, fear-based news and everything. There's a lot out there that can make you feel powerless, but the reality is we're not powerless. So when you step into that, and we're here to help each other through this. It's hard, you know, and especially with the internet now and the way that you can just access media so fast, it becomes so paramount for us to be having these conversations so that we can feel good about our world that we live in and decide how we want to co-create the world. So that's the way I went, and I'm just kind of keep going and finding ways to share that message, share a message of positivity and personal empowerment wherever I can. That's where I'm headed. That's where I'm going to go.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump on in because this is I've struggled with this because people I love, they see things they take it all at face. And I'm saying, but no, there are these indictments. No, there are these things. No, there are the white hats. No, and then you have to go down that road of trying to explain things, and it can get really dark really fast.
Yeah.
And so you seem to be able to straddle both worlds very, very well, and maintaining, you know, your shine is still there. And I know I just get really dark, and it's just like, okay, well, I mean,
you're like, oh, here's the, you know, satanic leaders that run the world, and then everyone's like, what?
Exactly, like Carrie's lost it again. Right.
Well, because if you believe this, then you have to believe that, and you're like, where does this end?
Right.
Like, really, what's the story here? And is that blows every paradigm I've ever known out of the water if you go there. So it is a lot to take in.
Right.
It is. And, you know, and I've been doing a lot of research into ancient Egyptian initiation and Freemasonry and all of this. And what you learn is that there is an initiation process. So you're not going to just be, we have the internet, right? You can go down those rabbit holes. You can go down those rabbit holes quick, girls. Y'all know that.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So we don't, we typically avoid, or I don't. She goes.
I go.
So, yeah, I go. I'm going down.
I'm there. I saw you down there.
I saw you, girl. I saw you. And when you decide to share now with other people, you take on a responsibility. Because when you're trying to create an open space to help people see through a doorway or whatever that looks like, you have to be very careful. And I come from a background in education. I was a high school teacher. I was a teacher in Montessori for younger children, and I was a trainer on the corporate level in the tech industry, working with people that were between the ages of 20 to 45. So I have experience speaking to different generations, and this, I feel very passionately about this. It doesn't come to sharing all the knowledge you have. What you want to do is meet people where they are, and it's not about giving them information. It's about listening. When you stop trying to teach and you start listening people, you can actually find what it is that they're at in their level of karmic development and progression through their soul development. And now you can meet with them where they are and then speak to them in a way that is captivating them. And it might not have anything to do with what you're learning. But because when you learn a whole lot of information, you have all these nuggets of wisdom, but every single person's at a different level of development. And when I say different, I don't mean that anyone's further than anyone else. We're at different spaces because, and I just did a video about this on YouTube where it's like, you can't think that you're more important or further along than anyone else because you're going to get bit in the butt real hard by the universe if you think that. So anyway,
eat a piece of humble pie.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, that's great advice because I know when I I was trying to share with my oldest son who is in 8th grade, and you talk about people being groomed. I mean, he is in debate, and he's already decided he wants to go to law school, and he's already decided he wants to go into politics. Of course, I'm like, ugh. But then I thought, no, wait a minute. We may need consciously aware. I mean, by that point, things may be different, and we need people that are awake to help to help guide us. And
Yes.
and so, but
Well, and you've done a good job of keeping a foot in both worlds for them too. So they understand the spiritual concepts, and they're making a big change here in the 3D.
I love that
So-
you think that, because every now and then I'm like, oh, why did I tell him that? Maybe I shouldn't have told him all of that. But it's exactly what you said, and I actually needed to hear that, because I do have to sometimes rein it back, because it does become sort of an all or none. And
Yes, totally. And I think that this is so important to talk about, because, and I'm loving that I'm here talking with you guys, because mothers and fathers, they're the most important role in the world. Raising the youth is the most important role. So first of all, thank you for what you guys do. Y'all rock. And I feel so close to you guys, because I really do feel like I am really trying to help in the way that you guys are trying to help too, where it's like, how do you reach the younger generations? How do you reach the people that are younger, that are coming up, and they're going to be taking on these roles of power? How do we support them, right? And so for me, over the last 3 months, I've been doing a ton of market research to try to figure out how I can expand my message to the younger crowd. And what I learned was that on YouTube, a lot of the younger crowd, they love YouTube videos with like music videos. That a lot of them watch music on YouTube. So what I started to do was go into those YouTube music videos and start breaking down the deeper symbolism that you can obtain through watching those symbols that are coming through the mainstream media outlets, and then breaking that down. And I've expanded my reach now, because people that aren't interested in spirituality or astral projection or disclosure or these topics, that the barriers to entry are there. And I don't want to create barriers to entry. I want to speak to larger issues where people can come in and they can understand something that's going to make them feel empowered. And it's not going to create confusion, because they're like, wait, I'm sorry, I'm disoriented. I don't know what you're talking about. And the more that we can take jargon out of our speech and speak to the larger issues, we can reach the younger generations, I think.
Oh, and that's exactly what you do. You met them where they are. I've watched a couple of those where you break down, and it's like, this is what she's saying, and this is what. Now, why did she say this? And they're incredible. I mean, it and when you put that into context, I mean, does that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
It is because when we blindly go, it's just coming in, versus saying, now, wait a minute, I think I'm going to call BS on that. That doesn't make sense. And so, and I love that you put it in that way. So go to her YouTube channel, and it's Divine, say it for me.
TheDivineFrequency.com is the website.
Mm-hmm.
But your YouTube channel is Divine Frequency.
Right.
Yep, I'm going to drop that link in the Facebook Live right now.
Drop that in there
to help y'all out.
Awesome.
Thank you. So everybody can just click on that and see Teresa, because you're okay. So I want to talk about your book. Can we go to your book real quick, because I think that is an excellent entry point, because most people believe in magic, and it's got a.
You believe in.
We don't have
magic.
your hard copy of your book yet. It's on order. But what is magic? And this is a wonderful, because most magic usually has a connotation of a little bit of
Like
curiosity, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of, what's going on behind the scenes.
That's such a pretty book
And I
cover.
think it's a really cool way to, when people start to have their own experiences, their own evidence, their own, like, it changes the beliefs when you start believing what is this magic that's going on behind the scenes. So I
couldn't have put it better.
Yeah. So I think that's a great entry point that most people can
Sorry.
can kind of easily digest as an entry
Yes,
point.
exactly. I tried to make it accessible, and what is magic is what my book is about. It's about the exploration of the question. People say, oh, well, what is magic? And I'm like, well, why don't you answer that for yourself? What is magical to you? When you embrace that unknown and you step into that mystery, I can tell you the book is a 2-month snapshot of my life where I started having these incredible mystical experiences, because I started reading the book Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, which is about
Life
reincarnation,
changer.
the life between lives. Yes,
Game
totally.
changer.
And I started having out-of-body experiences, and I started writing about it. And when I started writing about it, I just started having more and more and more happen. And so it's a cool book, because you're actually following me through 2 months of my life where I'm uncovering more about what I believe. I'm having to reassess my belief systems and integrate in new ways, which is riding the wave between the known and the mystery. That is accessing magic. Magic is consciousness. It's conscious awareness. So when you bring, and this is going back to what we were talking about with being able to learn lessons and grow, you have to pull out of what is unconscious, bring it into that conscious state of awareness, and look around you and think, what is magical around me? When you capture that magic, you bring that into your experience, it catalyzes you, and you start to have incredible experiences on this planet. It's really cool.
Oh, it is. And then you see there's a whole tribe of people out there doing it, and it's been there all along, and it was just, you never knew, or you thought it was kind of a myth or woo-woo, and then you're like, no, it's true.
Per Jamie Butler.
For Jamie.
So we, Tiffany, on my birthday, we worked out, and she made me breakfast and this beautiful gift, and I was walking back to the car, and all of a sudden I turn around and I see this purple, like this deep indigo
little beam of light.
No, it was a butterfly, and it like flickered, but it flickered in a really weird way, and then it was just gone. It just vanished. And I said, did, and you were standing right there. I said, did you just see that? And she's like, no. And I said, there was a butterfly, a little purple butterfly. And she's like, I didn't see it. And it was just, it like went poof, and it was gone. It was the coolest thing.
Wow.
But you're right.
So cool.
Well, the more you look, the more you see. Right? I mean, the more, and that's why I love the idea of tell me what's good. I mean, I'll randomly say at the store or the bank, tell me something good about your day. And they're like, I'm like, no, just tell me something good. Oh, well, and it's anyway, I know that that's a very small way of what you're saying, but it is wonderful. So yeah, you guys have to pick up this book. It is an incredible book. Did you put the link? You can buy it on her website.
thedivinefrequency.com, and that's where you can get a signed copy. You can get it on Amazon, but it really is a journey through your awakening, your understanding, and how you've put your puzzle pieces together and teaching other people how to do the same. It's a great, I'm excited.
But you didn't have to undo so many things. I mean, and I'm not, I love, your age is perfect, and I'm 20 years older, and it is, and I wish I would have been where you are at your age. I know it's all divine and it's all perfect, but it is, I love that you didn't have to go back and forth and do I not, and your parents are saying no, and I mean, it is this, it seems like you just came in awake, and your parents really fed that. I mean, how did you get here?
Can you tell us some of your early
that's a big question. So how do I want to say this? Okay, so my family, this is such a long story. I'm going to try to boil this down. Now the journalist in me is going to come out. How can I boil this into a short story? My parents were stationed at RAF Bentwaters actually Woodbridge, it's twin bases, but they were stationed at Woodbridge in England, in Suffolk, England, during the Rendlesham Forest incident in 1980. Which, for the viewers who don't know, it is a UFO incident. It was a mass sighting. A lot of people saw UFOs in the sky. There are books written about it. You can go online and read all about it. But what that essentially did was that it created a space in my family that we were always like assuming that there were things going on that was way more than what met the eye. There were secret governmental programs, at least, if not also aliens, right? So there's this whole kind of like, well, what were these ships in the sky? Were they humans in ships that we have like this incredible technology that we don't know about here on the planet? Or were they aliens? My parents were really into X-Files. We watched the X-Files. They would go to the conferences and everything. And then when we moved from England to Virginia, we were in Virginia during the time of the Seton miracles. And what this is, for those of you who don't know, this was in Time magazine, but our priest, Father James Bruce, was giving a mass when all of the statues of Mary started to cry. 300 people witnessed this, and this did not happen just once. This happened a bunch of times, and it seemed to follow the priest around. He would go to other churches, the people would see the statues of Mary cry. He had all these like amazing mystical experiences. It was like picked up by Time magazine and all of this. So, and this was just our priest. He came over to our house. He had dinner with us, and so in my family growing up, it was like, when we would ask our parents, what is this? They say, well, it's called a miracle. Miracles are real. God shows us his love for us through miracles and showing us that, magic is real. So I grew up with the understanding that magic is real, and that the truth must be uncovered. The truth is hidden and must be uncovered. These two concepts catalyzed me. So by the time I was, and I don't know if I've ever told this story on air, so this is going to be a little nugget that no one knows about me. But when I was 9 years old, I was in 5th grade, and I started a school newspaper. It was actually just a little class newspaper at first. I was taking articles that people had these stories. I'm like, wow, that's a really good story. You should write an article about that. And then I would take everybody's articles in my class. I would go to the library. I'd cut all of the articles that I printed up out, put it on pieces of paper, and then with the copy machine, make copies of it, staple it all together, and then hand it out to my classmates. Well, this became so popular that people started giving me ideas. They're like, hey, Teresa, you should do a comic. And I'm like, well, you're an artist, you want to do a comic for me and we'll put it in the paper? And so then, well, why don't we get a suggestion box? Let's go put this out in the hallway. And then it turned into this whole school-wide newspaper that after I left the class, they turned it into a class project. So that was the beginning of me kind of stepping into my personal power, which is collaboration. I love to organize and bring people in and make people feel like what they're doing is important. Like it's so important for people to realize that they have a soul purpose, that they have gifts, they have talents, and that they should be using those talents, because those talents aren't yours. They were given to you. They were gifted to you. You're here having this experience so that you can use your gifts that were given to you, you know? And so that just sort of kept moving me forward. I got into journalism. By the time I was in middle school, I was issued a computer. They sent me to classes for news editing and all of that. I became the yearbook editor. And so I was always like looking for those bigger stories. So by the time I got to college, I was 16 years old when I took my first college course. And that's when I wrote that paper. It was really cool because my teacher, she said, you're only going to write one paper in this class. Everyone's dead silent. What? And she said, what I want you to do is ask yourself, what's the most important thing to you in the world? That's what I want you to write a paper about. And the most important thing to me at 16 years old was that we needed to critique the images and messages that we were receiving in the mainstream media. And that's what I wrote my paper on.
Wow.
And I went to college. I got through college. I graduated with my degree in journalism from the University of Texas, Arlington. I graduated in 2008. I was 20 years old. Now, at the time, I thought that I wanted to go get my PhD in English. I wanted to be a college professor. And when I got into school, I was going for my PhD, and then I just had a complete breakdown. I was like, I don't have any life experience. I've been in academia my whole life. What's going to happen when I'm standing up on a stage teaching people that are much older than me? It was ridiculous. I had my whole world just crumbled around me, and that was my first dark night of the soul. I dropped out of school. It was the best decision I ever made, because that wasn't my path. It was not resonating with me anymore. I let it go, and then I moved into the tech industry. I started doing all of these other things, and by the time I was 25, so about 25, 26, I turned around and looked around me. I was doing really well living in Santa Barbara with my tech job. Everything was going really well for me, and then I thought, you know what? There's more to life than this. I have a higher purpose. I want to do more. I want to inspire more people. I just was feeling that calling. So I quit my job. I sold everything I owned. I moved across the country, and I had what I call my Uncle Tom's Cabin experience, where I was completely isolated. I wrote What is Magic. I started having these spiritual experiences that I couldn't explain. And then that's when after I wrote the book, that's when I started my YouTube channel. And I was like, I need to start talking to people. I need to get out there in the community. This was 2 years ago now. And so I started Divine Frequency on YouTube. After about 6 months, I finally started talking about aliens. I went through, and that's when everything kind of changed. As soon as I started talking about aliens, everyone was like, wait, what? Aliens? And then, skirt. And then, boom.
You can't get too far down this spiritual tunnel before you hit an alien. I mean,
you can't throw a rock.
It's right there. So I'm so glad you've said, okay, take on the aliens. Let's talk about it. Let's experience them.
So this has only been in the last 2 years? You're on warp speed, man.
Yeah, Divine Frequency has been a thing for 2 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, that is, so you really, I mean, and that's what I have found, is that when you find the path, you it's like, phew, off you go.
Well, and those synchronicities just line up.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had all of that.
You get synchronicities that you tank into these like huge dark nights of the soul, because when you expand so fast. Like, you can only integrate so fast. That's the reality. Like, anyone can lie to you and tell you like it's butterflies and rainbows, but it ain't butterflies and rainbows. Okay. Like, when you
shoot your ass.
Right, when you lean in fully to your path and you don't let anything get in your way, people think it's easy. It's not. But the reality is, it's the most important path for you. And when you have that attitude and you say, it doesn't matter what's going to happen, it doesn't matter how difficult it is, it doesn't matter, none of it matters. What matters is that you're walking the higher path for yourself, you're doing the great work, and you are using your God-given talents and gifts to do what you're supposed to be here doing. And you just keep going. That's all I can say.
Well, there's so much to say to that. I am, I do believe, and what was her name? She's Scottish and she's just beautiful. I love hearing her, and she's on TED Talk.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I don't know
she
her
says,
name.
you come in with a note. We are a choir, and you have a note. You are supposed to sing your note, and it is your note. And if you don't sing your note, it's off. And I completely believe that. And I think it is getting, I think it's getting easier to see our path and to embrace it, because I think we as a collective are growing. We're just growing, and our numbers, where before I think we were, she's a little bit weird, and now it's just like, yes, I am weird, and I'm gonna fly my freak flag, because nobody else can. And if I do it, then it allows you to do it, and Bobby to do it, and Tiffany to do it, and it doesn't matter. So anyway, so I just think that's incredible.
Well, and you coach people too. You help them personally on their journey, right? Tell us a little about your coaching.
Yeah. So the coaching thing happened very organically. I've been sort of a mentor for a lot of people in my life, just organically. And I'm sure that people that resonate with that will know what I'm talking about. If you just find yourself in situations where you're a good listener, people come to you, people you don't even know all of a sudden are opening up to you, telling you their problems, and then you have like things to say, and they're like feeling really good after they talk to you. That there's a whole group of people out here in the world, a very large group of people that resonate with that. And I think a lot of them are mothers, a lot of them are fathers, teachers, all of that. And so you just kind of have a natural propensity to do that work. Well, whenever I was writing my book, What is Magic, I discovered tarot. Now, I find the way that I like to describe it is that more like tarot found me, because when I found tarot, it was like discovering something I already knew. And I started giving readings. It's a funny story, and it's in the book when you read it. I was sitting there, my flight got canceled, so I'm in the airport. I'm just reading tarot for myself. I had maybe been reading tarot for 4 or 5 days, and people just started sitting down across from me asking for readings. And so I'm just like, okay, here I go. And I just started giving people readings. Yeah. And I learned that I had a knack for it. So I started a business, I started giving tarot readings, and then it turned into this beautiful kind of space for coaching, because people would, have I've been through a lot. I'm 30 years old, but I've been through a lot in my life because I move so quickly. I am always trying to make sure that I'm catalyzing my consciousness. And when I look around and I'm not being challenged, I'm going to push myself. I've always pushed myself. So I've gone through a lot. And so when people would tell me their problems, I would kind of help them, I'd listen to them, and then I'd say, well, from my experience, this is what I learned. And not really telling people what to do, but just having that open sharing space, And then as Divine Frequency grew, the coaching grew, because people were watching my YouTube videos and they were saying, wow, I need to talk to you, because I would speak to something that was like directly related to something they were going through in their lives. And so I opened up more coaching opportunities for people to come talk to me, and it just expanded, blew up, and I was having so much fun with it. I'm having a blast with it, because having that open space where people can talk and I can help them, and I've made so many friends through it too.
Right.
And it's just been really fun.
It feeds you. It really feeds you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think giving that gives back to yourself. I think that's amazing.
It is great to do it macro and then micro when you do it in the big scheme and you're putting out these YouTube videos, but to get that one-on-one interaction with people, it's very special.
It really is.
I've watched people change their lives, and that's the reality. It's like the thing I am, what flows through me, the God spirit that flows through me, is just inspiring people to see that light within themselves. It's not like, oh, I'm like anything special. No, I listen, and then I'm like, I help people highlight that beautiful gem that they have within them. So you speak to that gem and people go, wait a second, I'm awesome. I can do what I want to do. I can fulfill my dreams. I don't need to be abused. I'm worth more than that.
Right.
And every single person has to stand up and decide. We have free will. You have a choice. You have to choose that you are worth more than abuse and all of that negative stuff you don't want in your life. You have to choose to be worth more than that and step up and take your life back.
You're exactly
Amen.
right. You know what? I and this is for you too. They showed me one time, because it's the same thing. I mean, I've heard stories my whole life, and some of them I'm like, oh, I can't unhear that. And it is, people have always spoken to me about things, kind of what you're saying, and I know a lot of us have that. But the way the guides described that is, they said that we all come in with our pre-programming, but love, anger, fear, all of it, like it's like flypaper. It just kind of sticks, and it builds up this callus. So what you do when you go out into the world, you remind people who they are. It's almost like you either activate the code, or you kind of help them peer through it to see who they are, and they're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm supposed to be doing this, or this is not where I'm supposed to be. You know, maybe we don't really know where we're going, but we know where we don't want to be. And so
absolutely,
that's part of your gift. And it's a divine frequency.
Ta-da! That'd be a good name for a website.
It would be a great name for a YouTube show too.
So for you guys who are watching us live on Facebook, we are live, obviously, but we're going to be giving away at the end of the show 5 tickets to Teresa's upcoming conference, which we're about to talk about. So what we're asking you to do is share this live show with other people who are on the spiritual path that you think would benefit from hearing this kind of conversation, and be part of our tribe, our group, and just have weekly check-ins to share all these great experiences and remind each other of our divine frequency.
How beautiful we are.
Share the live show, and then so tell us about your conference, the Divine Frequency.
That lineup is phenomenal.
Yes. Okay. So I am so excited about this conference.
Coming up this weekend.
Yes, it's this weekend. It's Saturday, May 12th from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So my idea behind this conference was that we would take people in our community and provide them a platform to speak for 11 minutes each. So if you guys are into TED Talks, which I know you are because we're all into TED Talks, it's kind of the age of the TED Talk, right? We don't have a whole lot of time, right? We're all busy, and we would love to be able to go to these conferences. I go to a lot of these conferences. They cost a lot of money, right? They use up a lot of your time, which is all great. The conferences are wonderful, like awesome, you know, but when you're there, you're like listening to a speaker for like between like an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes even 3 hours. You can't get in all of the speakers that you want to see, and then by the end of the conference, you're like completely wiped out, right? You're just like information overload, and and there's still so much more that you wanted to do that you weren't able to do. So I thought, why don't we collapse this down? It's an online conference now, so people can come from all over. It doesn't matter, you know, you don't have to fly.
I love that. I love that.
You just have shorter talks, and so you get all the information that you want from the speakers that you love in a condensed time period. And I thought, like, what a cool idea. Let's see who jumps on board, right? So I sent out an email, and I had no idea, like, how people were going to respond, because I know we're, like, going right into conference season, so it's like everyone's super busy. People are traveling. We're in the thick of it. You know, people are out of the country for conferences and here and there. So I just cast it out. I said, you know what? I'm just going to let it go, see what happens. Like, it's going to be cool if maybe 2 people come. It's going to be a good time, like, whatever. And then pretty much everybody RSVP'd, said, that's a great idea. I would love to come. And I'm like, oh, wow. And so we had 7 speakers decide that they wanted to come speak, which is totally awesome. So, we got that going on. And I pulled up an article. I wanted to just kind of tell you guys the topics, because I finally put together a list of
please.
Okay.
Tell us your speakers and the topics.
Yes. Okay. So Laura Eisenhower will be coming. I love her.
She's incredible.
She is. She has so much information. I've seen her live. I saw her for the first time live at Eclipse of Disclosure last year, and I just wanted to take all of the information that she was talking about and just like insert it into my brain like a download, like the Matrix.
I've watched it twice because it goes by so fast, and it is like so full of incredible information.
She's amazing. Yeah. She's incredible. So she's going to be talking about Gaia Sophia Ascension. And then we have Niara Isley, who, oh my goodness, Niara Isley, she has been on Gaia TV, and she's sort of blown up even more now. She's on all kinds of, interviews and things like that. She's going to be talking about unified hearts, unified consciousness. That's the name of her talk, which I just love the name of that talk. She's so empowering. I saw her at Eclipse of Disclosure as well, and she does a wonderful job of taking the darkness and transmuting that right in front of your eyes. Like, you watch it happen, it's almost palpable. Like, you're sitting there and she just weaves this web where it's like she's been through a lot of negative stuff in her life, but she's like such a bright light, and people like that need to be, in my opinion, on top of a rooftop with like a loudspeaker and just like pumping that into the world, you know.
That's awesome. Oh, I can't wait.
Let's see. Then we have Ashley. So Ashley, she runs a lot of the stuff up at ESETI Ranch in Washington. She's going to talk about standing in your power in times of great initiations. This is going to be such an empowering talk. I'm so excited about that one. Then we've got Adrienne Youngblood. She's going to be talking about fearless authenticity. And Adrienne, she runs a lot of the stuff for Full Disclosure Project. So they're throwing Dimensions of Disclosure conference in Colorado in August. Heather Sartain, she's another speaker that has been on Gaia TV on Cosmic Disclosure. She's going to be talking about the pineal gland form, function, and health. She's an incredible scientist. She's a professor actually in Houston. She's in y'all's neck of the woods.
H-Town. We'll have to look her up.
H-Town. And then we have Nazreen Sheikh, and she was actually on a TED Talk. She's amazing, and she's going to be talking about empowering your own empire. You should check her out. If you haven't watched her on TED Talks, just look her up, Nasreen, and you can check out her TED Talk. And then I will be talking about riding the wave of ascension. And then we're going to have a panel where people can ask their questions to the panel members. It's going to be a blast. And we've got like a special little workbook. So like you'll be able to like write down your questions and your notes. And for my talk, there's a whole section where you'll be like answering questions, and it's going to be completely integrative, interactive, like workshop-y, and the feel is going to be very like close to home. So you'll be able to like talk with these speakers, and there's going to be a little chat box so that you can talk with the other attendees and engage with them while the talks are going on, which I think is so important.
Oh,
This is wonderful.
So now, will it be available after the show?
I'm going to record it, and then I'm going to release it to the people who are attending that, you know, have a ticket. I will definitely send them the raw copy afterwards. And then for as far as like releasing it publicly, I haven't really decided how I'm going to do that yet, because it does take a whole lot of time. I'm a one-person show. Divine Frequency is a one-person show. That's me. I do it all. And it takes a lot of time to do the editing and all of that. And especially with 7 speakers, I'm going to have to like get their presentations, put it all together in my software and everything. So that's going to take some time, but my intention is to have that available in some kind of capacity after the fact. Yes.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so everything is at thedivinefrequency.com/conference. That's where you can get the tickets, you can get the speakers, you can get all the lowdown on everybody she just talked about, and how to go look them up on YouTube, because that is going to be fabulous. Or share the show and you can get your chance to win a free ticket.
Very cool.
And that's this Saturday coming up, May 12th. It's going to be 1 to 4 Central Time. That's our time zone.
Yes. 1 to 4 Central Time. You got it.
Okay, so I know, I feel like we're just like zipping through stuff. It is. I really wanted to ask you, and it's funny. I ask everyone this question: what does ascension look like to you?
So I take a very practical approach to things like ascension and any other thing that you want to throw out there. I come from a teaching background, so I'm going to take something out of the woo-woo or the new age or the confusing realm, and I'm going to go, how do we ground this? How do we ground this in? Okay, so I was raised Catholic, so when you think about ascension from a Catholic perspective, this was when Jesus was taken up into heaven after he rose from the dead, and he was with his disciples for 40 days, and then he rose on a cloud into heaven. That's in the Bible, okay? So that's what ascension means to the Catholics. Now, then there's this whole book called Revelation, which talks about what's called the rapture. Now, the rapture is the second coming of Jesus, where the people who are righteous will be taken up into heaven. So when you hear the word ascension thrown around these days, I believe that people are thinking about the concept of moving into the next phase as a collective. So that's how I would ground that in, try to blanket that across the board and say, how do we as a collective feel about ascension? People hear ascension and they think, okay, well, that's like at the end of the world, you know, the end times, whatever happens at the end, and then our souls, the people that are good and not bad, move on or go to heaven or do the next thing, right? Okay, so I'm going to put that over here now, and now I'm going to step into my definition. That's practical, because you can talk about that and be like, well, I don't have any frame of reference for that. Why? Because we don't know what's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're philosophizing. Now we're talking about something that no matter how much you read or who you talk to, everyone's going to have their different opinion. So let's take that out and let's say, how can you practically ascend every day? How can you choose to be a part of that concept while still keeping it in a frame of reality that makes sense to you, right? So I like to talk about every day you have a choice. Every day you choose to wake up and either be walking the path toward goodness or not. And if you take, and inaction is also action. So if you choose not to take steps toward goodness, then you're actually taking steps away from it. So in a practical sense, what I say ascension is actually riding the wave between the known and the mystery. While you move through your day, when you shine your conscious awareness on your world around you, you're constantly taking in new pieces of information and integrating those new pieces of information. You have to choose with every piece of information that you receive what to do with that piece of information. How can you use that piece of information to help you along your path get closer to your goal? Coming back to morality, coming back to the highest form of what it is that you can be actualizing in your life. You want to go that path, you want to walk that path, and then you want to help others. You want to nurture others as well, help them along their journey, because we're in this together and you can't walk the journey alone. That's not why you're here. You're not here to walk a journey alone. We are literally here having this physical experience so that we can do it collectively as a community.
Boom. There it is. I didn't hear you talk about DNA. I didn't hear you talk about New Earth. That was interesting. That I love that, because that's practical. You're right. You can use that every day. I mean, it's just growing to the next place.
Well, and you could say that's a Christ consciousness growing in everybody. That is that highest possible human potential that we're striving toward. So I can see how you could blend.
Well, and that was David Wilcock. That was that's what made sense to me. And when he put it also in a way of saying, okay, this is why the energies have changed, and it made sense. That's a thick book. That's a big book to weed through. But it's.
Are you talking about Ascension Mysteries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great book. So
nice.
So what's on tap for you? Where are you? What do you got going? Can you tell us? Or do we need to stay tuned?
I have all kinds of stuff going. I actually have some really big changes happening for my YouTube channel that I'm not going to announce yet, but I'm super excited about it. So here in about a week, you're going to see some incredible changes happening on that end. And let's see, what's next? Well, obviously we talked about the conference, and then I will be going to Contact in the Desert in the beginning of June. So I will be there. I will have a booth there. We're going to be pretty close to the Gaia room, and in like one of the larger areas. And then it's going to be me, Stillness in the Storm, Modern Masters. We'll have a booth there. I'm going to be selling signed copies of my book, doing tarot readings. We're going to be hanging out. It's going to be a blast. Come talk to me. Come ask me questions. Let's have conversations. It's going to be so much fun. And then we're in the thick of conference season, y'all. So, I mean, it goes Contact in the Desert. Then I will be at ECETI Ranch in July for the ECETI conference. I am so excited about this conference, you guys. I cannot stress how excited I am. This talk I'm going to be giving is like nothing I've ever talked about before. I'm going to be pulling in all of my mystical experiences, my extraterrestrial contact, these intense dream sequences, and what they actually mean. And then I'm going to be teaching what I call the etheric battery, which is something that I've channeled across the last 2 years, that I've learned a technique for meditation and like tools for ascension kind of stuff. So I'm so excited. And I'm working with artists that are actually helping me depict some of these experiences, like the extraterrestrial contact experiences and some of these dreams. So I'm working with like 4 different artists right now. So,
okay. So I saw on your Facebook page, you talked about, Cobra announced, or not announced, but he put the Pleiadian message up, really short, about activation. And oh my goodness, I have had the most incredible dreams recently. And there was one with all these little triangular ships, and they all fit together to make a big one. And it was hovering, and it was completely dark. no sound, and I was like, okay, I have to get to my family. Where am I going to put them? Chaos is about. And they said, no. We're just observing. There's no chaos. We're just here observing. And so it's been. And then I had another one night before last where I had to. It was an
ET contact.
Well, that one was, but this one I think was an initiation of some sort. Like I had to agree to it, and they poked me with something, and it was a drug, and it was supposed to take, I don't know, sort of a shamanic journey. So it was really,
right.
This is all like in the last week, so it's been a really crazy
What?
week. So when you said
crazy.
that,
I had something last night. I woke up and I was learning about the event horizon, and I was like, I had to go Google that. Like, what is the event horizon? And it's
Wow.
that's really cool.
so I don't know what I'm learning, but I think we're all receiving this information, and it's like you said, it's whether you choose to act on it and actually activate that vibration and inquisitively go down that rabbit hole, go
And
check it
allow
out.
Allow it to
Yeah,
percolate.
Tiffany, I couldn't have said it any better, and that's incredible what you're experiencing, because like when you have these dreams or these meditations, when you receive something out of the ether like event horizon, and you're like, what's that? And you go Google it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is, it's crazy to have those experiences, and that happens to us a lot, and I think it's expanding. More and more people are having these incredible experiences, and I almost wonder if we are connecting into the collective consciousness on a better, like in a better way now, like if we've learned how to
We're tuning
come together
in.
and
Tune
and
in.
to
The
the divine
Ethernet.
frequencies.
The Ethernet.
But it makes you wonder if the internet was part of what caused this. So like because we have the internet, we're able to find people and connect with people that are like us. You can have a thought and you can go find it on the internet and talk to somebody else in the world that has that same thought.
Right.
Therefore, now we're coming together. We've created this web, and then now we're starting to do this telepathically, I think.
Yes,
See,
yes.
I think you're exactly right, and I think that is part of why we started the show, is to try to walk with a foot in both worlds. And I always thought I had to shave my head, and I always say this, and move to an ashram. And I mean, no, I don't. I'm not trying to judge that, but I have
Family.
3 kids, a husband, so that's not really in my cards. And so it's really cool to try to, astral travel, talk to people like you, and then I have to go pick up my kids. And it's just this balance of trying to walk that way. Can we go there? Can we talk about, because I do remember you've had ET experiences, yes?
Yes.
Can we want to share? Or
Yeah, let's see. What's a good one? I'm trying to think of like a good one to pull up right now. Okay, so after Contact in the Desert last year, which is for those of you who don't know, it's a conference where a lot of people are talking about consciousness, they're talking about ETs, whatever. It was taking place in Joshua Tree, if I'm remembering correctly, yes. Mm-hmm. And this is allegedly a place where there's like a whole lot of crazy energies, which, mind you, I didn't know what that meant at this time, okay? This was like my first kind of like
initiation.
Conference. Yeah, and I'm like, what is this? This is so cool, like I was all into the Rendlesham Forest incident because of my family. I've always been into ETs. I wanted to go to an ET conference, which is funny because I had signed up for one in Texas, and then it was canceled. And I was like, oh, man. And then I started meeting people online who were into this industry, and they were like, Teresa, why don't you come hang out with us at Contact in the Desert? I got invited, and I go out there. That's when I started meeting people my age in this community: Jordan Sather, Justin Deschamps, Eric Rains, a lot of people, Matthew Mornian, amazing people, right, in this community. And I'm like, it was so changing for me because I had already written What is Magic. I had already started my YouTube channel 6 months prior, and then I went through a horrible dark night of the soul. I got a divorce. Everything started to just kind of like go bad, but then it got better when I started realizing, wait a second, I can talk about these things and people don't think I'm crazy, and I'm like, I'm going to go to this conference, right? Well, everything started to get really weird after Contact in the Desert, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it pulled all of the people that are like having ET contact into one space. I mean, that was like the first time that I met Corey and Stacy Good. Shout out to y'all. Y'all are amazing. I think Stacy's actually watching. I saw her say something. She said, we need each other. We can't do this alone. I love you, Stacy. You're so right. And
I love your show with her, by the way. That was so great. And Stacy, I love you too.
Stacy's amazing. She's such a powerhouse woman. And so after Contact in the Desert, or at Contact in the Desert, I started receiving these activations where I was asleep, but my astral eyes were open. So it's like, if you guys have ever had what's the word? I'm blanking right now. Sleep paralysis, where like it's almost like your eyes are closed, but you can see through your eyelids and you can see your room and you can't move. I'm looking through my tent roof. I can see through the tent roof, and there's like a shooting star coming down, and then it like hits me in the third eye, and then I wake up and I'm jolting out of bed, and I'm like, whoa. And I actually, it's funny you just psychically pulled that out, because I was like, whoa, like that. And it happened to me 3 nights in a row. And then after that, we went to San Diego, and I was actually hanging out with Stacy, and she was showing me a picture. She was like, hey, there's this guy in California. They're like building these communities. They're really cool. They're off the grid, and like we would love to do this one day. And she shows me this picture, and I almost passed out, because she literally showed me a picture of something that I had drawn when I was 19 years old, when I was writing a sci-fi novel called Legend of the Gaia. Mind you, I had never heard about Gaia television or anything. I didn't even know what Gaia was. I was Catholic at the time. And I'm writing this book called Legend of the Gaia, and she was showing me an image that was exactly, uncannily, what I had drawn, right? Freaked me out. And Corey comes over, he's like, just so you know, everybody's having these activations right now. And he was talking about this publicly. Corey Good was telling everyone, just so you know, people are being activated right now. And since then, I've heard an incredible number of stories like what you guys have been talking about, what other people have been talking about. People are being activated. It's happening. So I go home, and then maybe a week later, I'm sitting on my bed, and this was, I was dating Jordan Sather at the time. We're sitting on my bed, and behind him, I saw a blue sphere. It was my first time.
Like one of Corey's blue spheres.
I don't know. It was like this big, about that big, and it was behind Jordan in front of the window. And I'm looking at it. It just appeared really fast, but I was like, oh my God, I just saw a blue sphere. That was really cool. And then, yeah. And so that night, I go to sleep, and then I'm having this dream where I'm standing on a hilltop next to my best friend, Kim. And there were like black helicopters. It was dark outside. People are running around. The city's on fire. It's just like complete chaos. I knew that everything had gone to crap. They had issued a police state. And because that had happened, everything had just gone to crap. So the ETs actually came out and were showing themselves to us, because they were trying to help us prevent, I think, nuclear war from happening, was the idea that I was getting in my dream. And so I'm explaining this to my best friend. She's freaking out. She's like, what's going on? And I'm explaining, and I'm devastated, because I'm watching the black helicopters and the military personnel shooting at people dying. They're shooting at the extraterrestrials as well. They're like little grays, and they're dying. And I'm like trying not to cry, because I'm so upset. I'm like explaining to her, like, this is just horrible. I can't believe this is happening. The ETs are trying to help us. And because of our ignorance, and because the military had been called out to kill them, to create this chaos, it was just awful. And so I'll never forget this part. There's a black helicopter, 2 guys in it with guns, and they come out over me like this, and I can see their faces. I can picture their faces in my head right now. They're that vivid and clear in my mind. And they have their guns, and they go, and it crashes right next to us. The helicopter crashes, explodes into flames. And with that light, I knew this is our time to get out of here. So I grab my friend Kim's arm. I run us into a building close by. We go into the building. It's pitch black. And then I thought at that moment, I wonder where Jordan is. And when I thought that, somebody had reached in and like opened like this thing on the wall, like a latch. You know what I'm saying? And it turned on the lights. Well, what happened then is I'm in my bed, and everything is exactly how it is in my room. And I have plenty of astral projection experiences. I have very vivid dreams. I have lucid dreams a lot. I go lucid very frequently in my dream state. I meditate a lot. I meditate every day. And so at this point, I was sitting in my bed, and I'm thinking, like, is this a dream? Because usually I can tell. Usually I can tell if I'm having a lucid dream, if I'm not, if I'm awake. Usually that's pretty clear to me. But for some reason, it was not clear to me, which kind of freaked me out, because I'm looking around my room, and it's like a fog. I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen to you, or if you've heard anybody talk about this, but it was like there was fog in my room, and I'm like trying to see through the fog. And then I look over to my right, and there's the window, right? And the blinds are closed, but I can see something like a shadow hovering, like kind of like this behind the window. And I'm squinting, and I'm like, what is that? And I can see past Jordan, because Jordan's asleep next to me. And then it was like a horror movie, you guys. I kid you not, it was like a horror movie, because Jordan's lips move and he goes, they're coming in, aren't they? But his eyes are closed and nothing, like it didn't even show like he was awake or anything. It's just his lips moved and he was like, they're coming in, aren't they? And then just like back to sleep. And I was like, what and I'm looking, and then I go, yes. And as soon as I said yes, it was like what you were talking about, Carrie, where like they ask your permission, right? I said yes, and then whatever was behind that window dematerialized outside my window, rematerialized inside my room, okay? And this is where it gets weird. It was, yeah. It was 5 blue-gray aliens. That's the only way I can describe it. I didn't really have any kind of frame of reference for this at all because I had never heard of this kind of alien before at all. It looked like a gray, but it was like a shimmery blue color on its skin. Yeah. And I'm like looking, I'm like, wow, is this really happening? Are there ETs standing in my bedroom right now? Like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like a little bit scared, but I kind of put my energy out to try to it was like immediately I just boom, pushed my energy out into the room to taste it. Almost like, is this negative? Is this positive? What am I dealing with here? And they're about 5 feet tall and they're looking past me. It was like they were like soldiers almost. They're like standing like this. There were 2 in the front, 3 in the back. And they're looking straight past me at the mirror across from me. And I'm like looking at them. And then for a second, I think that they're going to take Jordan. I don't know why. I just got this like sense that they were going to take Jordan. So I grabbed his arm. And as soon as I grabbed his arm, all of us dematerialized out of my room. And we rematerialized inside of a white circular room. And I think this might have been their ship maybe, but we're standing there. I'm standing across from Jordan. There are 5 blue-grays on this side of me, 5 on the other. So there were 12 of us total standing in a circle, all equidistantly spaced from each other on sort of like a raised platform. And there's this etheric ball in the center of us. And it was like floating like this, like kind of like above, like maybe like right, like that high. And it's silver, and like there are silver cords from our third eye going to the center ball, and then I can hear their thoughts. They're communicating into this space. They're like sending their thoughts into the space, and that's how they're having a conversation. And it was like way over my head because they're ETs and they're like higher density, and so it was like I could catch some of it like on a thought level, but it wasn't like I could make sense of it in a language sense. It was more like feelings, and it was almost like if you're a child and you're in a room full of adults, like maybe you're 5 years old and you're in a room full of adults that all have PhDs, you're going to be like catching little snippets, but it's not really going to make all that much sense to you. That's sort of what it felt like to me. And wow. And this went on for some time. And then after that, I shoot up in bed like this, like awake. What's crazy that Jordan said that he woke up maybe 3 or 4 seconds prior to me shooting up out of bed, which wow. That's a really interesting synchronicity, right? Well, I shoot up out of bed. I go into the kitchen to make coffee because I think it's morning time. I was totally thrown off. My circadian rhythms were way thrown off. And I look at the clock. It's 2:17 in the morning. And I was like, what? I go back in the room. And I was like, man, that was a really weird dream. And Jordan goes, yeah, I had a weird dream too. I had a dream that I was in my childhood home and there were black helicopters flying over my house. We had a shared dream experience.
That wasn't a dream.
Right?
I think there's a timeline. The first part, we're down to 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Let me finish this. Let me finish it really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I go back to sleep. The next morning, I wake up. I feel like I'm drugged. I'm underwater. I'm cooking breakfast. And then there's like on the back of my right leg where there's a birthmark, there's now blood running down my leg. And I have like a new birthmark behind my right knee that you can see. So that's the story.
Whoa. How long ago was this?
This happened... It was after Contact in the Desert last year, which was June. I think Contact in the Desert was end of May. So this happened in June of last year. I actually made a YouTube video about it too, so you can
go back and watch it.
Check it out. Oh my gosh, there's so many great stories that we want to get into.
Will you come back on?
Yeah, I'd love to.
You've got so much. Okay, so we are going to give away the 5 tickets to the conference so you can hear more about this and all these other speakers who are going to be speaking this language. And this is a concentrated immersion into the rising collective consciousness. Yes.
Say your last name.
Yannaris. It's Greek.
Yannaris.
Oh, it's Greek.
Teresa Yannaris.
Well, I love your last name. I was like, is it Yannaros?
Yannaris.
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 It's like Daenerys, but Yannaris.
Yannaris. Got it.
Lovely.
Got it.
Teresa, thank you so much for joining us on the Joyride show.
Thank
This
you.
has been so fun.
We'll see you Saturday.
I'm going to post in the comments all of the winners to the Divine Frequency. But be sure you can go buy your own ticket at thedivinefrequency.com.
And they're very reasonable.
Conference, yeah. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Teresa. This has been a blast.
It has gone by way too fast.
It did. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Tiffany. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for what you guys do. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all rock.
Thank you.
All right, well, we'll be talking soon. We'll have you back because I want to hear more of these stories.
Seriously.
Absolutely. Let's hang out. Let's kick it, girls.
All right,
Thank you for
love and
my
light.
Texas brethren.
Thanks, Joyriders. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
We love you.
See you later.